Hey everybody, and welcome back to Emerald City Hockey. We are here again with the second edition of our Way Too Early series. Super excited for this one because RJ, I think you came up with a killer idea for this video. Why don't you go ahead and explain it to everyone?
Thank you. Yes. So the idea is Kraken firsts. So the Kraken experienced a ton of franchise firsts in their inaugural season. So many that we'll never forget. First game, first win, first shutout, first hat trick. But there are still many firsts ahead for the Kraken organization. And today we're going to take a way too early look at what, when, where, how, and who those firsts will happen. So, Dylan, are you ready to get started?
I am totally ready. Born ready for this.
Okay, so let's start with a fun one. First, Gordie Howe hat trick. Because the Kraken have had some Gordie Howe hat tricks against them, but none of their players has ever gotten one in their first season. So, for those unfamiliar, by the way, a Gordie Howe hat trick is a goal, an assist, and a fight from the same player in the same game. So, Dylan, which Kraken player is going to get the first Gordie Howe hat trick?
I bounced around a little bit on this one. I was trying to think like, okay, Alexiak's going to get like 2 or 3 goals this year. I think he's probably going to have the most fights. Is it going to be him? But then also needing the assist. I don't know. Finally, I settled on 2 candidates. Okay. And I have the guy I think it would happen naturally for, and then the guy I think he might manufacture this. As in, if he's got a goal and assist, he might just go pick a fight just to do it. Okay. So the player I think it would happen naturally for is Yanni Gourde, right?
Okay.
Tell me the scenario doesn't sound super probable at some point. He scores, he gets an assist on like some early goal or whatever. Then later in the game, he scores a shorthanded goal, and then he's just fired up and being a pest, and somebody picks a fight, and he just drops the gloves and goes with it because he just loves, tussling with everybody. Like that I just see that happening, right?
Dylan, okay, it's like you're reading my notes here because my notes literally say Yanni Gourde, what order? Assist, comma, goal, comma, fight. Build up to it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it just makes sense. So, he's my pick for like it naturally happening. My pick for manufacture, and this might mean that then this person becomes the first to do it, is Adam Larson. Because tell me, if he's not sitting on a goal and an assist in a game in the 3rd period, he's not going to just go out and pick a fight. He'll do it in a close game. He'll do it if the Kraken are down by 1 because he likes to take late penalties like that for no reason. But I just think that seems like an Adam Larson kind of thing to do, would just be like to go out there and get it if he's already got the other 2.
It does. And he's someone who's capable of getting a goal and an assist and kind of sitting on it there. And yeah, I could totally see him dropping the gloves if that were the case. I do like that pick. All right. So, yeah, I had Yanni Gourde. I agreed with everything you said. I swear we didn't talk about this ahead of time. But yeah, I think he's probably the most likely. And he'd be fired up too. If he had the goal and an assist, it might be going through his mind, right?
Oh, for sure. Like, there's no way it's not.
All right, so moving on. First 4-game win streak. Now, we were waiting for a long time for the Kraken to hit 3 games for a win streak last season. It was definitely a talking point, but they haven't hit 4 yet. When will the Kraken's first 4-game win streak be, Dylan? Looking at the calendar, where are you feeling lucky?
Yeah, this one was tough. There's a couple spots where like I think 3 games are really doable, but then it's bookended by like, Colorado and Vegas or something, and it's like, ooh, that one's gonna be maybe a little tougher. There's 2 spots where I think it could happen, and I'm gonna start with the first one where I think this will be probably their first 4 game, and then I'm gonna give you a bonus where I think it'll probably be a 5-game win streak. Okay.
All right.
But my first thought comes in January, in the new year, where they get on January 7th, they play Ottawa, and then they follow that up with games against Montreal, Buffalo, and then Boston on January 12th. And to me, that seems like a really nice 4-game stretch for them.
Yeah, that certainly seems doable. Now, I'm curious about the 5-game win streak.
Yeah, now this is if they're really looking for the 4-game win streak, this is the place to do it too. But this also seems like a good spot for a 5-game win streak. It's in April though. So we have to wait a long time, just like we had to wait a long time for the first 3 game win streak. But boy, wasn't the wait worth it, right? Like it was awesome. But this is all the way in April. On April 3rd, this thing would kick off against Arizona, followed by Vancouver, followed by Arizona again, followed by Chicago, followed by Arizona a third time. So anytime you get to
Oh my
play the
goodness.
Coyotes 3 times in 5 games, I feel like you've got a good chance at winning all 5 of those.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not your first 5 game win streak, then you better have gotten it earlier.
Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, that is a good stretch to end the season, and certainly if the Kraken are in that playoff hunt, it's good to know they've got that in their pocket.
Hmm.
I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic on the first 4 game win streak. I think they get maybe one tough game in there where they figure it out. I'm going to go November 19th through 27th, kind of that Thanksgiving window where they've got LA at home, San Jose at home, then they go on the road at Vegas and at Anaheim. I think the Kraken had a little extra juice to them when playing some of those California teams last season. I don't think San Jose or Anaheim are going to put up too much of a fight. You know, you can get through those easily. I think they probably, we've seen them have some good efforts against LA last season. And then I don't know, I'm going to throw a Vegas game in there. In Vegas, I think they can get it done. I could see that being, you know, kind of the big getting over the hump against the Golden Knights moment. And I would certainly love to see that as their first 4 game win streak.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good one. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities on the schedule. I'm looking forward to February. You go Philly, Winnipeg, Philly, Detroit, San Jose, Boston. Even like that's a good one too.
Yeah. I love when you have it sprinkled in like 2 games against the Flyers in a little stretch, 3 games against Arizona.
Yeah,
It's an interesting schedule. And of course, you know, it's the NHL. Any team can beat any other team any given night. So
exactly.
you never know when these win streaks are going to come.
Yep.
All right. So I mentioned Vegas in that last one,
Hmm.
hoping maybe that's kind of the moment they really push through. We're going to start with first real rival because let's be honest, the Kraken didn't have an actual rivalry with a team where there's hatred on both sides and all of that in their first season. Probably didn't win enough to make it happen, if we're being honest with ourselves. But I think that could come this coming season.
Hmm.
First real rival. Where are they going to build up that hatred? Because you never know exactly where it's going to come. These things tend to happen organically. Who do you think it's going to be?
I think this is and there was already some seeds planted last year. They weren't watered a ton, but they were planted. And I think it's going to continue into this year starting on opening night in Anaheim. I think the Ducks are going
Okay.
to be the first real rival for this Seattle Kraken team. Both franchises kind of, they started off first draft pick for the Kraken, right? Matty Beniers, second overall. What was the pick right after that? Mason McTavish by the Ducks. I think the two of them are going to kind of have a rivalry throughout their long and certainly promising looking NHL careers. I think these two teams are both kind of doing the same thing as far as building up right now. And so they're going to be competitive with each other for a long stretch of time. And I just think that, you know, last year those were heated games. Those were games we always felt like, hey, we could win, and there was always something going on that made those games close and tough. And they were the ones that just felt the most heated to me, realistically, of any of the in division games. So I think Anaheim's going to be that team this year. I think there'll be times where we can beat up on them because they're a little worse than they were last year. But I think there's going to be plenty of times where guys like McTavish, Zegras might surprise us and make us leaving with a little feels bad, and I think that's going to contribute to it.
It's certainly a rivalry with some staying power. I think you'd look at
Hmm.
two teams that maybe are the future of the Pacific Division, and Anaheim and Seattle come up, both of them with their pair of great forwards, Matty Beniers and Shane Wright, and then Trevor Zegras and Mason McTavish. And you could see those two going at it for, better part of a decade or
Hmm.
more. I'm going to go with a pick you probably tell, maybe a little biased towards, and I think it might be the Golden Knights. I mean, Vegas has become hated around the league. And honestly, since the Sharks became irrelevant, they kind of been begging for a Pacific Division opponent who maybe has a chance to, knock them down a few rungs, to really bring that hatred. And I think that now Seattle can do it. Last season, they didn't really stand a chance in any of those games against Vegas. You could tell that even the Golden Knights who didn't make the playoff just kind of outclassed the Kraken from a talent perspective. But I think Seattle finally has that roster now that could be tough enough to play against, that can give Vegas a run for their money here. And in a season where they really need to bounce back and try and make the playoffs, I think Seattle can steal some very valuable points from them. And honestly, I'd love to see that rivalry get going.
Exactly. And really, right, what's going to be the ultimate thing that determines a rivalry? It's going to be a playoff series at the end of the day.
Yep.
I feel like you're not going to be able to call anyone your rival until you have a heated playoff series. And, that's certainly something if Seattle, we've talked about, looking more at wild card type setting. If you're talking playoffs for this year, Vegas might win the division or something like that. You face them in the first round, maybe. I don't know.
Yep. So okay, we're on the same page here because I'm going to go straight to first playoff opponent because that's what I had next. And I'll go first. I think it's Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm going to be optimistic maybe for both teams because I think it'll be this season. And I think it'll be that top of the Pacific slot, that 1 seed versus 7. I'll say Seattle in the the first wild card. Sorry, because I think the Central Division team will probably have the most points in the West. So we'll go, 2v7, Vegas versus Seattle. And honestly, this is my dream first playoff matchup. Seattle coming in as an underdog. You don't have all those expectations on you. And you kind of really introduce yourself to the league in the playoffs where everyone's paying attention and in a situation where everyone is rooting for you. Plus, maybe some travel out to those games could be fun. Vegas, you and I like that first game. We'd probably head out to some of those. I think it'd be a great scenario. Now, Dylan, who do you think will be the Kraken's first playoff opponent?
That was the one I was thinking. Like, it just seems to make the most sense to me. I think if I was to provide just like an alternative, because I agree with everything you said wholeheartedly. If I was to provide an alternative, it would just be LA. I think LA might surprise to the upside again this year. I'm just gonna keep saying that about them forever, I guess. And maybe they finish better than Vegas just because Vegas's goaltending situation now is what it is and all that, and so maybe it ends up being LA that the Kraken have to face in the first round. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably Vegas. Just seems like destiny.
It does. It really does. Honestly, I'm rooting for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, first 30 goal scorer. So we had a Kraken player come close last season. We've also have some new additions who are probably capable of doing that. We talked about it a little bit, in the way too early for, who we thought would be the goals leader. Yeah. But there might be multiple 30 goal scorers next season if we're lucky. Who gets there first? I'll go first. I think it's going to be Jared McCann. I mean, we talked about this, in the last video, and I think even if they are multiple 30 goal scorers, he's going to get there first. I think he'll have the better start, and I think he'll be good on the power play. Basically, copy paste everything I said in the last video. By the way, check it out if you haven't already. The way too early stat leaders. It should be some on the channel. But. It's like in the description below on the channel somewhere. Anyway, Jared McCann, I think it will be. Dylan, who's it going to be?
It's going to be Jared McCann. I'm convinced if he had played a full season last year, he would have gotten there. Would have needed 3 goals in 8 games. I think that would have happened. The other thing is, I think a full season of him having a more defined role, not bouncing all through the lineup, not just from wing to center, but also first line, second line, third line. Like, he was just all over the place last year in the lineup. Get him settled down, maybe on Beniers' wing, as we've been talking about, and just let him play a full season there. Guy's got 30 easy.
Yep, agreed. So, moving on to a category where Jared McCann had a chance. He did. And I'm talking first penalty shot goal. Because the Kraken have only had 1 penalty shot in team history. Jared McCann took it. Yeah. He didn't score. So they're still waiting on their first penalty shot goal scorer. Now, this requires a lot of elements of skill. You have to get on a breakaway first.
Yep.
Be hauled down, sell it well enough that the ref doesn't just give out a regular penalty. That's an underrated part of earning a penalty shot. And then you have to score once you've had all this time to overthink it, set up, etc., and all this stuff. That's what gets a lot of players, I think, too.
Right.
So, Dylan, who's it going to be? Who can do all of those things and put together a penalty shot goal for the Kraken?
Yeah, now I know everybody, your gut reaction is to say like a Yanni Gord, especially on like a shorthanded breakaway opportunity. But here's the
Hmm.
problem. Yanni, I don't feel like knows how to sell it well enough. He plays with a low center of gravity. He goes down. It doesn't look that spectacular.
He's gonna fight through it as much as he possibly can too.
Exactly, because he's got that compete level. So how about someone else that we saw have a surprising amount of breakaways that really caught defenses off guard last year to the point where they kind of had to panic and maybe like try to do something, and also isn't the best skater in the world. So if he gets brought down, it's going to look kind of fantastic as his arms go flailing all over the place. And that's Brandon Tanev. That is turbo.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
this is gonna be Brandon Tanev's to get, and then you bring up the idea of overthinking it when it comes to the penalty shot. I don't feel like Brandon Tanev's that kind of guy. I can speak for us with long hair. We don't overthink things, and I'll leave it at
That's
that.
great. I love it. Okay, so I had Brandon Tanev as the name on my list,
Ah,
and I think we both have some memories seared in, especially early in the season. Remember that? I think it was a shorthanded breakaway he got against Vegas in
yep,
that first game where we were there. I think he got a few, really,
he
just
did.
surprisingly getting behind the defense. So I think we kind of noticed the same thing there. But I'm going to try and provide an alternative. I'm going to say Jordan Eberle, and I think it'll come off of, he's going to hit the blue line with speed. Matty Beniers is going to hit him with a great pass from
Mm-hmm.
the neutral zone. He'll get on a breakaway. Some guy will trip him down, and we know that Eberle has a good shot. Put him in that penalty shot situation. I don't think he's going to overthink it. He's kind of been there, been around in the league enough. He's not going to let that get to his head, and I think he'll score. So that's my other pick, Brandon Tanev. But if not, Jordan Eberle.
Yeah, that's a good one. I thought we were finally gonna like disagree on something there.
I
Um,
know, I know.
well,
And
here's
we're just thinking too well together.
I know. Here's one though. Like Donskoy, very well known for shootout goals. Do we think that
Hmm.
there's an opportunity though that then he could get a penalty shot? Because that's the part that it's like,
I'm trying to remember the last time I've seen him on a breakaway, and I think it might date back to his time with the Sharks.
yeah, it's been a
Uh,
while.
yeah, so the opportunity might not be there, but if he gets the penalty shot, if they're lining up at center, I trust that he's going to score that just about every time. I mean, he's a shootout specialist. He knows what to do in that situation. Another guy who's good in the shootout, maybe Ryan Donato. And I think he could be in a situation to get hauled down and get that penalty shot. So that'd be another cool milestone from now. First goal, first penalty shot goal for the Kraken. I'd like to see that.
Would be cool.
All right. So the next one is going to require some imagination, Dylan. All
Yeah.
right. And I want your mind to really work here. First line brawl. And you can set up whatever you want about this situation because it is way too early. These things,
It's
5 minutes before is way too early. You can't even see
yes.
these coming. So, what team is it against? Maybe how does it start? Feel free to throw in as much or as little detail as you'd like. How can you imagine a line brawl starting that's the first ever for the Kraken?
I'm trying to think of like a scenario that can still be like light and fun that doesn't involve injury because I feel like most of the
Right.
time these days in the NHL when we see a line brawl it's because like a cheap shot has happened and somebody's like unconscious on the ice or something. So I'm trying to think of something
Let's steer
that
clear of that.
isn't that. So I'm going to go ahead and say someone on this is now where I got to get the team, but I think the team's going to be St. Louis Blues. Okay.
Okay.
Someone on the Blues. Maybe it's a Ryan O'Reilly, somebody like that. They just want to get a little tough with Matty Beniers. And this could happen second week of the season, by the way, when they face St. Louis at home. I think this could be something. They're just trying to be like, okay, Matty Beniers, he's probably going to start the season off hot again, just like last year. He's, approaching 20 games in the NHL. Somebody's going to give him a welcome to the NHL moment. All of the Flyers and Sidney Crosby back in his rookie year, and they punched out some teeth. And I think that's going to happen again here, where somebody's going to take a cheap shot on Beniers up high. He's going to lose some chiclets and things are
Mm.
going to go from there because the Kraken are not going to stand for that.
Yeah, no, they certainly wouldn't. Guys are going to step up. It'll be interesting to see who else is on the ice at that point and what they decide to do about it
Mm-hmm.
right away. So, yeah, I could see that happening. And yeah, St. Louis, I could see it happening against them too. I could see everyone getting involved,
Exactly.
especially maybe Jordan Binnington if he's in net.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with, I guess, something a little similar. So this might be the way to kick off that LA rivalry that you were talking about, maybe with the playoff series.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say Brandon Tanev gets up in Jonathan Quick's face just a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe gets a little too close, or maybe even Yanni Gord like sneezes on him or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, something sets Jonathan Quick off. I'm going to say it's Brandon Tanev. Quick just goes nuts, starts throwing the blocker at him. Tanev engages. Drew Doughty, who is on the ice, starts going at it with Yanni Gord, and then Carson Kuhlman locks up with someone else, and then everything just goes haywire. And I think you can just see it explode from there. But I don't know, the Kings. I'm just feeling the Kings.
No, I think that's a really good one. That's. I mean, we've seen Jonathan Quick start line brawls before, so
Yep. Yeah, I might be inspired by some things I've seen in the past. So we'll go with that while he's still around and in the league. So, all right. I talked about a goalie there. Let's move on to something kind of similar. First goalie fight. Because goalie fights are super rare. Might not even be this next season. I mean, probably not if we're looking at the numbers. But eventually, one day, there's going to be a goalie fight involving the Kraken. I'm convinced of it. One day it's going to happen. When, where, how, who? Paint the picture, Dylan. Tell us how it's going to happen.
This is going to happen. So, I'm trying to remember when I talked about this, but there's the whole, the idea of the guys always trying to I think it was last week on Way Too Early, actually, about the guys that, they get into fights and all that kind of stuff to keep their roster spot through the preseason training camp or whatever, right? They're going to be the big hitter. They're going to do all that stuff. I talked about this, I think, with Donato. I think this is going to be Joey Daccord fighting somebody. You brought up two very likely candidates in Binnington or Jonathan Quick. I feel like both of those are great choices. I don't exactly know the when or the where, but at some point this year, Daccord's going to get some playing time in. He's going to be frustrated because he had this opportunity. Martin Jones comes in, all that kind of stuff. We know things with the Kraken last year didn't go too well for him. If things start off that way for him again this year, I think at some point that frustration is going to boil over, and there's going to be something going on, and then he's just going to go ahead and jump in because he's just going to want to display that, passion and everything for the team so that they'll keep him around.
I like that idea. And hey, it works for players in other positions. If you're fighting for a roster spot, you're trying to get that playing time. You got to make an impression on the coaches. Go out and fight somebody. Why can't it work for a goalie? I think that'd be really fun to watch. All right. So my idea, and it's not next season, it's 2 seasons from now. And, apologies to any of the Kraken goalie fans out here who might not like what this implies. I promise it will get better. But I'm going to say it's Philip Grubauer versus Chris Driedger. Chris Driedger, once his contract's up, signs with another team. Again, sorry, everybody. But things heat up between their two teams. There's the start of maybe a little line brawl, some fights going, and they look at each other from across the ice. They know what's going on. They're going to go. They meet at center ice. They drop the gloves and they start throwing these kind of fake punches at each other, really play it up. Oh no, got hit. And then finally it's in Seattle, by the way. So we know how this goes down. They know what's going on. Ruby just kind of shoves Driedger over, knocks him to the ice, and gives him the people's elbow to finish it off, plays it up for the crowd, and everyone loves it, and it's a great time. So that's my goalie fight that I could see.
I absolutely love that. I think that could totally happen. My only question is, would it happen if there's a legit kind of line brawl going on, or is this something that would just happen if there's like a stoppage? There's a delay.
TV timeout.
Yeah.
See, I could see it happen either way. I mean, it'd be a good way to lighten up a regular line brawl. Be like, come on, guys. Like, what are we really fighting over here?
Yeah.
So I either way, I like the idea. But come on. Ruby Driegs, if you're listening, make it happen.
I know. I think everybody would be on board with it. That would be one of the most memorable moments in Kraken history. Talk about like way too early, like top 5 moments in Kraken history. That would be one of them.
Oh, for sure. It'd have to stick there. It's never been done before. It's awesome.
I know.
All right. So sticking with these kind of things, we'll go with first suspension. So we've yet to have a Kraken player suspended, thankfully.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll still be a long time.
Hopefully it'll still be a long time. 2032,
Yeah.
there's a trip that goes bad unintentionally or something. But maybe let's guess a little bit earlier.
hmm
Dylan, how is the first suspension in Kraken history going to happen?
So I'm of two minds on this one. I think because the Kraken don't really have any dirty players. They don't have anybody
Hmm.
who's going to go out and like slew foot a guy or something like that. Certainly not intentionally. Like maybe Ryan Donato fighting for something in a corner, something happens, kind of whatever. But generally, certainly with the current regime of the NHL disciplinary system, that's not getting suspended. So at first I was thinking like, well, Jamie Alexiak, just because he's tall, he's going up against like an Alex DeBrincat, and he goes for like a check along the boards, and it just turns into him slamming his head into the wall, and it's just because of the size difference, it just like accidentally happens, right? I could see something like that, and they toss him a game just because it's like, hey, be careful, even though it's not really your fault. But I think ultimately this is going to be where Shane Wright makes his mark on the franchise,
What?
because Shane Wright is going to be the guy to get the first Kraken suspension. And this is going to be so Shane Wright loves to play defense. We've talked about this before. He likes to play the two-way game. If you notice during development camp, this is something that he did plenty in Kingston too. He really likes to have an active stick while chasing after guys. Because if like there's gonna be a breakaway or something, he finds that fifth gear and he slams into it, and he tries to chase down the guy on the breakaway, and he tries to use an active stick. All right. I think there's plenty. I mean, we both know that there's plenty of opportunity for that to go wrong and to draw a penalty, certainly, and maybe even a penalty shot. But I think something's going to happen where he's going to get really, really tangled up with somebody, and he might bring him down in a way, and then he might be frustrated by it too. Let's say the Kraken are losing, and he gives like an extra punch after he brings the guy down, and that could be, something. Again, maybe not with
Okay.
this disciplinary like system that the NHL has currently, but again, outside of somebody intentionally hurting someone, which I don't want to predict, I don't see anything getting suspended these days.
Yeah, see, okay, I like how you kind of approach this, right? Going with, okay, you don't want anyone intentionally hurt. I could
Yeah.
see the Alexiak thing too, just bigger guy. They
Yeah.
would they would do that. But very creative there, thinking about, right back checking someone. Hey, when all that stuff goes to the boards, you
hmm
never know. And you hate to see it, but
Yep.
maybe that could happen. I did kind of think outside the box too, because I think neither of us really wanted to, predict the more classic suspension.
hmm
I'm gonna go maybe a little bit further out of the box. I'm gonna say it's not even a player. I'm going to say it's Dave Haxtell.
Whoa.
Okay. And here's how. So we all know that Dave Haxtell, doesn't get too animated on the bench if calls kind of go against his team or
Yeah.
whatnot. That's something we've talked about in the past. I think it's just that it's all bottled up and it's waiting for the right moment. Maybe the Kraken have a slow start to the season. Maybe they're in trouble a little bit, and he's like, "All right, enough. Last season was what it was. I need to do something to fire this group up." And he just has this epic kind of, complaining about a call meltdown just for the effect to get everyone fired up. I'm talking throwing pieces of the bench. I'm
hmm
talking throwing sticks on the ice, all that kind of stuff. And the Kraken might be down 4-1, 5-1. It leads them to an epic comeback, but the league's like, okay, Dave, we can't have you doing that. Suspend him for a game just to send a message. And yeah, that be the first ever
hmm
Kraken suspension. So that's what I'm going with.
I like that a lot, especially if he throws one of those tablets. You can't
Oh,
disrespect a
yep.
league sponsor like that. That'll get you every time.
For sure. Cannot do that. So first suspension. I like our ideas there.
Yes.
All right. So here's an interesting one. And this question I basically put in just for you, Dylan. I had you in mind here. First Russian player. So the Kraken had lots of players from different nationalities. They haven't had a Russian player yet, though.
hmm
And there are plenty of Russians in the NHL. So it will happen at some point. Who will be the first Russian Kraken player, Dylan? And why is it Vladimir Nemesnikov?
I want it to be Nemestikov so much. I would absolutely love that. I think if they're on track for the playoffs, that is the guy you want to bring in to bolster your team before the playoffs. I've talked about him numerous times. He's the ultimate bottom six player. I absolutely love him in today's NHL. I hope he one day wins a Stanley Cup because I think he really deserves it. However, Kraken have a lot of those kinds of guys right now. Like I feel like this year wouldn't be the year that they would do a trade
Mhm.
like that. Do you think there's a chance though? Let's say St. Louis runs into a rough patch. Kraken are looking better than they think they're going to. You know, we almost saw this in the expansion draft. What are the odds Tarasenko ends up in Seattle?
Ooh, you know what? I mean, we've talked about this for so
Mm-hmm.
long. It feels like, leading up to the expansion draft that, maybe at some point it'll just happen. He could be a fit for what they would need, certainly. I mean, yeah, what team wouldn't want a guy like that? Yeah, if something were to happen to St. Louis, I mean, he's been in trade rumors
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
Possibly. I mean, that's a pretty good answer.
So he's my
So
guy.
yeah, no, I like that. Now, I I think Nemestikov actually, is a pretty good answer.
Hmm.
I was thinking Nikita Zadorov, but then I realized did he sign a new deal with the Flames? What's that contract?
Yeah, I think he did. I'll hit it
Okay.
up here.
Yeah, no, 2 years,
Yeah.
3.75. Okay. Kraken can handle that. Um, if something goes wrong with the Flames, I mean, they've had a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Maybe that window isn't what they thought it would be. I mean, you lose Gaudreau, you lose Kachuk, anything can happen, right?
Hmm.
The Kraken, let's say they do well, they're kind of gearing up for a playoff run, and that teams love to add some of those bigger, more gritty defensemen, that can help you during a playoff run. Maybe Nikita Zadorov is the guy.
Yeah.
He's someone that I talked about also with the expansion draft as
Hmm.
someone that maybe they should have taken. So I'm gonna, I still haven't entirely let that go. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
say maybe they get him here.
Yeah, no, I think it is funny how both those names, him and Tarasenko, right? Like they're just kind of hanging around, but it's for a reason. Made sense then,
Yep,
kind of makes sense now. So either of them, I could totally see.
exactly. So this next one is really fun. I've been looking forward to this. I
Hmm.
kind of saved it almost, for toward the end. First former Kraken player to score a goal against the Kraken.
Hmm.
So it hasn't happened yet. We've had some former Kraken play against them. I think Kelly Yarncroke was the first last season,
Yeah.
but no one has scored a goal against Seattle that's a former Kraken player.
Hmm.
So who do you think it's going to be? When do you think it's going to be? If you have kind of a date or a game in mind, how's it going to happen?
Yeah, this one's really tough. There's some good candidates out there. You and I, this is the one that we did briefly talk about. Um,
Hmm.
the guy that I just have in mind, like it's just this feeling I have. It'll come November 13th against Winnipeg at Climate Pledge Arena, and Mason Appleton just takes advantage of a bad Kraken line change, streaks in and scores one. I just think
That would
that's
be
what's gonna
something.
happen.
Mason Appleton is the guy. I love that. It's a little off the board there,
Hmm.
but I could totally see it happening. I'm gonna go maybe arguably a little bit more off the board. I'm gonna go with October 25th against Buffalo. I think Riley Sheahan's gonna be in the lineup, and I think he's gonna score a goal. It'll be just a rebound goal right in
Yep.
front of the net, super greasy goal, but he's going to be in those right spots. We saw him do it for the Kraken, and I think he might do it against the Kraken there early in the season.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. I think probably what the betting favorite's got to be Colin Blackwell.
Yeah, I'd say probably 'cause I think they play against the Blackhawks in their seventh game
Yeah,
of
they
the
do.
season.
Right before that Buffalo
So
game.
yeah, he's going to have an early opportunity. They don't really play a lot of former Kraken before that.
Hmm.
He'll probably have the first real shot at it. So I certainly wouldn't doubt Colin Blackwell. He'd be my favorite to do it.
Yeah.
But I just got a feeling it's Shan. I think we both kind of have a feeling on certain guys here.
Exactly. And we have these feelings, and then it's gonna be something like crazy, like February 9th against New Jersey. In New Jersey, they have some injuries. Nathan Bastian's in the lineup, and he does it.
I could see that too. After having shots playing against the Kraken before, even last season, just okay, there he goes. He decides to get it
Yep.
done. I could see that. All right, so two left.
Okay.
And I know people have been talking about this one online quite a bit.
Hmm.
First captain for a full season. Now, I think I know what your answer is going to be,
Yeah.
but tell us why it's going to be Matty Beniers.
Yeah, so I still think it's going to be Matty Beniers, and if it's not going to be this year, like I do understand the idea of not giving it to somebody after 10 games. But I can also see the Kraken maybe not even going into this season with a captain, and maybe it's something Matty earns, halfway through, and then the following season it's Matty. I just he's the face of the franchise. They're promoting him like the face of the franchise. We know he has the leadership skills. We've seen it not just at like development camp more recently, but even last year when he joined the team. He was a real shot in the arm for them. His presence overall in that locker room, based on the little glimpses we've seen of that, how he handles the media so well, and how often they put him in front of the media. And then just his, I mean, for crying out loud, we're penciling him after 10 games. Everybody knows he's going to center this top line. Like, this is going to be a guy who's going to be a feature on the power play, a feature on the PK. He's going to be on the top line. Like, this guy is going to lead their forwards in ice time. You know what I mean? And so I just think if we're saying he's ready for all of those responsibilities, why wouldn't he be team captain as well? Right? He's going to be leading them on the ice anyway. He's already leading them off the ice when it comes to the media and all that stuff. Really, the only thing we haven't seen him do is argue with the ref, and that's the only thing left, right? Like that would just be the job he would gain from being the C. And if anybody says anything, first off, I just hate the argument everybody's using if he's not ready, like, yet. And it's like, again, he's not ready to argue against a ref. Like, he's fine. We've seen younger captains than him do this before. So I don't buy the whole he's not ready thing. I could see if the team's not ready to make him, but I don't think that he's not ready. And I will just leave with this. After a brief Google search, there's only been twice that Kraken players have thrown out a first pitch at the Mariners game. One was right after the expansion draft when you had a whole group of them in Kraken jerseys just to be like, hey, Seattle fans, this team exists now. Here's like a group of them, right? And then it was just a couple of months ago, or a month or so ago, with Matty Beniers throwing it out in a Mariners jersey, because that's really how it's done. You know what I mean? That's how you know you've arrived as an athlete, is not when you're wearing your own jersey, but when you're wearing the team that you're throwing out the first pitch for. That's when you know it's like a legitimate first pitch. And it was Matty Beniers. So, the Kraken helped set that up. Seattle sports fans wanted that. The Mariners wanted that by having him there. That, to me, tells you everything you need to know. He's out there doing that community stuff because he's going to be the future captain of this team.
You've won me over on that since we kind of last talked about it. I think he's certainly ready. I don't have any reservations about it at this point. Just to give a different answer, because I still do think that he's probably not the odds-on favorite at this point. I'm still going to stick with Jordan Eberle. And you mentioned, he's ready for it. I don't doubt that at all. Is the team ready for it? I don't know. And one thing I do know is just how respected Jordan Eberle is in that locker room. And it's something that players will bring up all the time, unprompted, just how much respect they have for Jordan Eberle. And since they were even very young too, I mean, that goal in the World Juniors really, put him in the minds of a lot of players growing up. And so if it comes down to that, where they decide, maybe they don't want to give it to Matty yet, I could see Eberle being the guy. I think Yanni Gordie would be a fantastic captain. I just want to mention that there, because I'd love to see that for sure. But I feel like Eberle, it might be the guy. It's just a feeling I have. So we'll go with that as our picks for first captain for a full season.
Yeah.
And I think if either of those two are named captain this season, they should stay captain for the full season, please. So that would be nice. Those are our picks. Now on to the last one. First mascot, Dylan.
Oh my gosh.
Now that's a big one. This is the biggest one. We've saved it for last, but we're not going to talk about it now. Isn't that right?
No, because we've got so many fantastic viewer submissions to our Kraken mascot competition, and so we're here to promote the video reveal of the winner of that, chosen by Zoidberg, the unofficial mascot. And it's going to be a fantastic time, a fantastic video. We got so many great submissions. Loved seeing them all. Thank you to everybody who submitted one. It was really, really fantastic. And that video is going to be coming out soon. So we just wanted to drop a little teaser for it, because there's some fantastic submissions, and some that I do think the Kraken should consider doing. Hello.
Yes, as I was scrolling through these ideas, I'm just use this. This is great. So definitely looking forward to having that video come out very soon. Definitely give that a watch when it comes out. Looking forward to that. It's going to be super fun. So that does it, I think, for this edition of Way Too Early Kraken Firsts. Let us know in the comments too, what other Kraken firsts you're looking forward to. how's it going to happen? Who's going to do it? There were so many ideas still that we had for Kraken first. This video could only be so long, but they've got a lot of cool firsts ahead of them. And I'm looking forward to seeing what all these are and maybe if we predicted one or two right. So yeah, looking forward to that. And we will see you next time.